We are back. Peter Golenbock, remembering Dynasty, bums, and a whole lot more. I'm Ralph Tycho. I'd like to introduce the host of the show, Mr. Peter Golenbock.
Oh, how are you? I didn't realize I was the host of the show, Ralph.
We've been doing this 10 weeks.
Show.
We've been doing this 10 weeks. I honestly sounded professional to myself on that. So
you did a fine job. Fine job, Ralph.
You demand. And I'm excited I did that because I have the privilege of introducing our guest, Billy Martin Jr. How are you, sir?
Well, I'm doing great, and I'm glad I could kind of gloss up the show a little bit with professionalism like that.
Yes, in quotes, professionalism in quotes on my part, for sure. I'm going to turn it over to you guys to talk. I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say. The only thing I wanted to ask Billy is if he could share some memories of your paternal grandmother. I live in the Bay Area. She, over the years when Billy Ball was out here, she got a lot of publicity, and she was one of the most interesting characters I've ever run into in any way, shape, or form. So if you would, Billy Martin Jr.
Well, you know, I didn't get to spend much time with her. She was such a tough woman. And I don't know, I'm going to guess Peter's going to agree with me on this, but
I definitely do. She once hit your father over the head with a frying pan.
Yeah, but as much as that probably created some issues, he made him the tough SOB he was, in good and bad ways.
That's very true.
I mean, there's so many different ways you can look at it. I mean, he did everything to win her love that was never completely winnable.
Yeah.
And she was never satisfied with anything he did. He always reminded her of, and I quote, the jackass that left her. And
true.
Trust me, if you said that word to my father, you were getting knocked out. Okay, because that word was something he heard from her his whole life. And, you know, and because of it, wanted to change his name more than once. And you know, that's why he didn't allow my mother to name me Alfred Manuel III. Mm-hmm. He said, absolutely blank and not. It's going to be Billy, Billy. We're going to call him Billy Jr. If you want him to have a middle name, fine. You know, and because there was no way he was going to continue honoring the jackass that left his mother. She was a tough woman, and I don't know that he was ever truly felt loved by anybody because of what she did to him.
If he felt love, right. he might have been loved, but not felt love.
Yeah, no, he was. He was absolutely loved. I'm one of those people. I mean, but I don't think he could ever soak it in. I don't think he could absorb it because of her. I mean, when she met my mother, she barely even spoke to my mother. All she had to say, you know, look at her. She's blonde-haired and blue eyes. She looked at me and said, well, at least he looks Italian. You know, I didn't pass muster at 2. So with her. So luckily I didn't get too much time with her. But,
that's a good way of looking at it. Luckily I didn't get too much. If you're not going to pass muster anyway, luckily you're not getting the damage from not passing muster, and you could laugh about it.
Right. When I was still, you know, messing my drawers and drooling and stuff, I couldn't get by. I didn't have much of a chance after that. But
he
tried to please her always.
I can tell you from personal experience that not all mothers are always easy to please, and who is? It's not just mothers who are.
Well, Billy, you had a good relationship with your own mother.
Oh, sure. I was at her house today on Mother's Day as we speak. Yeah,
that's lovely.
And well, she's still a pain in the rump like most mothers are, and still tells me how to drive. I'm like, okay, Mom, when I turn 50, can you just let me drive on my own now? But they can't ever help that stuff. She's 80 years old, and she's still a big baseball fan. We watched the Ranger game today together, and she's still a piece of work.
So are you in Dallas? Are you in Texas?
I sure am. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
What part of Texas are you in, Billy?
I'm in Arlington. Dad managed the Rangers in the early '70s, and his next job was New York, and we really liked it here. And being my father's son, every 3 years we were packing up and moving for some particular reason, and so it was like being an Army brat for years. And we decided to make this our winter home. We'd go spend summers in the city with him, but he and Mom started going on the outs with New York too, and so this became home for me.
Okay, and you like Texas? I mean, you're happy. What can I say? You're an agent now. You're a player agent. Who are some of your players?
Well, Tommy Kohler, who's in the rotation for the Miami Marlins, one of our clients. We have several guys in the minor leagues that probably don't know of yet, but will soon. Joe Nathan, who is on the comeback trail, is one of our guys. Hopefully he'll be signing with the team sometime in the near future.
I think he started as a catcher, if I'm not mistaken.
Shortstop.
Okay. All right. And it was Troy Percival started as a catcher. So
there you go.
Which is to me, that's a fascinating subject that we have to cover someday. People who are versatile enough to start at one position, people like Gil Hodges started as a catcher, and what have you. What's your earliest memory at the ballpark, Billy?
Wow. That's probably an unfair question, considering that I've always been at the ballpark. I mean, I was a drooling baby at the ballpark. My whole life was going to the ballpark. Everybody thinks, "Oh man, it must be so great." What was it like? Well, I gotta be honest. When you're 4 and you go to 82 home games, you try to sit still on one of those plastic seats for the whole game, and not embarrass somebody. It wasn't always easy. If I didn't have somebody like Robbie Alomar to go play, wall ball or tape ball, under the bleachers with, I'd be going crazy like most, attention deficit baseball kids. But, but that being said, come on, it was, I got to be a part of some amazing things. I was telling a story the other day when it first kind of hit me. And, I could probably think I'm dumb because I was about 15 or 16, and I was shagging balls at Fenway. I was in uniform. Dad was managing the Yankees at the time, and I was out by the Green Monster, and I looped the hill. I hit one off the monster and beat P. Make that sound that you don't hear anywhere else. That kunk, that's hard to. And it hit me. I'm like, wow, Babe Ruth used to run around in this grass, and Joe DiMaggio, and just it kind of got flooded with all the history of the game in that one moment. And here I'm out there, shagging balls with the catcher's mitt.
There isn't a week that goes by when we don't talk about overachievers on the show, and your dad's experience, I think it was the 52 World Series, if not the 53, that he made that diving, running catch across the infield.
The catch was 52. Yes, sir.
Okay.
The catch was 52, and in 53 he had 12 hits. So he was or both of those.
Okay, Peter,
Yep.
Mickey Mantle told me a story.
Okay, good.
He had 13 hits.
Ah.
Well, one hit that did not get recorded, and this is a great story. All right. Dad hit a ball up the middle on the Pee Wee Reese side of second base. Jackie Robinson covered so much ground that he actually dove for that ball. It touched the end of his glove. They called it an error.
Oh, wow.
Mickey told me this posthumously. Dad was gone already, okay? When Dad died, Mickey would take me out to dinner once a month. Lunch or dinner, you know. Dinner for him was 3.
Right.
But you know, my boss would always let me off work to go have dinner with Mickey. But he would tell me stories. He would tell me these stories about Dad. It was awesome, especially when he drank. It was still so much fun because he'd get a few drinks in him, and he'd start swatting at my glasses because I wore glasses back then. He'd try to knock them off my face. I'm like, "What are you doing? Take off those damn glasses!" And I pull off my glasses, and tears would actually come down his eyes. He'd go, "Now you look like that little Dago I miss so bad." And but he tells me the story one day. How he said, your father hit a ball up the middle. Jackie Robinson touched. He goes, there's probably no other second baseman in the game that could have gotten to that ball and even touched the damn thing. He said, but even had he gloved it clean, he'd have never gotten up and righted himself and thrown your old man out. Because he goes, your dad ran good. And he goes, but that ball, Yogi could have ran it out. He goes, so what we didn't know was the official scorer a racist? And did he just want to tag an error to Jackie? Or was he still pissed at your father from an argument they'd had early in the season over something else that had happened, or both?
Mm-hmm.
And so here my father's tied with other people for having that 500 batting average, 12 hits in a 6-game series. And in reality, he had 13.
Wow.
Billy, tell Ralph the story about shooting the donkey.
Okay, well,
I think I might have read that in your book, but it's a great one.
Well, now anybody listening that really wants to hear a better version can probably Google this from my father or Mickey telling it on Letterman, The Tonight Show, you know, who knows what else. But all right, basically what happened was, when Dad got the Ranger job, and of course Mickey was living here in Dallas at the time, you know, like with most jobs when you get the new gig, there's a lot of business dignitaries handing you stuff, keys to the city, things like that. And some banker gives Dad a deer rifle. Welcome to Texas, Billy. And sure enough, he calls his buddy and says, Mick, come on, I got a new deer rifle. Take me deer hunt. Mickey says, okay, so they go out to some bar and stay out all night and decide to just drive straight to East Texas to Mickey's place. They get there. Mickey walks in the ranch to tell the rancher, hey, I've got Billy Martin with me. Just want to let you know, and where do you think I can put him on a good deer? And he said, well, go to the back pasture. There's, sit up in the top of that one barn. But do me a favor. Before you guys leave, I need you to go out and kill my mule. Mickey's like, I won't kill your mule, buddy. What are you talking about? No, you're doing the family a favor. It's like 15 years old. It's pulled up lame. Please, none of us have the heart to do it. Would you just shoot the damn thing for us? I'll take care of it. Well, Mickey, of course, gets that devilish thought in his mind, and he thinks, I'll get Martin on this one, right? And he walks out and goes, that son of a bitch. He leased the place out to a bunch of doctors. I'm going in the barn and I'm going to shoot his mule. Mickey walks in there. Next thing you know, he hears, I got 3 of the suckers' cows, too. Dad was always being a teammate, so, you know.
All right. What do you say, Peter?
Well, I mean, Mickey and Billy were the people closest to each other. I mean, that was the most important relationship in both of their lives. And it was just so interesting. You know, it's funny. Billy ended up getting traded away from the Yankees. It was his birthday, 1957. It was June, I believe, the end of May, beginning of June, and they all went to the Copacabana.
Right.
And that was the night that Sammy Davis Jr. was singing, and there was a group at the tables next to their tables, a bunch of very drunk bowlers, Italian bowlers from the Bronx, who were screaming really nasty things at Sammy Davis Jr. And Billy...
They were getting racial, weren't they?
They were racial. They called them the N-word. And Billy, who saw that people had been doing the same thing for Elston Howard, he just wouldn't abide that. And neither would Hank Bauer, by the way, who was also...
Elston Howard was there, if I'm not mistaken.
No, Elston Howard was not there. He wasn't.
Oh, okay.
He was on the team.
He was on the team, but not at the
He was on the team. He was not there. Bob Grimm was there. Billy was there. Mickey was there. I think Yogi
Hank
was
Bauer.
there, and Hank Bauer was there, and one other player. But the important thing was Whitey was there.
Might have been Johnny Cooks, if I remember.
Well, Grimm was there because I know that because I think he was a rookie and he was surprised to be there. At any rate, or maybe it was Cooks. May have been Cooks the rookie in '57. Yeah.
Okay.
And what happened was, you know, as the bowler said to, and it turned out to be Hank. You know, you want a piece of me? You know, one of those things. And Hank took him back into the bathroom and beat the crap out of him. And unfortunately for Billy, the general manager of the Yankees, who was George Weiss, had never ever liked Billy. I mean, Billy told me that when he came up to the Yankees in 1951, if it hadn't been for Casey Stengel, Weiss never would have taken him on as a Yankee. He came up in '51, but Billy and Jackie Jensen had both played for Casey in Oakland in 1947.
Which I think is the first case of analytics getting involved in baseball.
I think you're probably right. And let me change that. It was in '48 because Casey came up to the Yankees in '49, and he said to Billy, "You play one more year in Oakland, and then I will bring you up to the Yankees." And Casey was the sort of person who kept his promise. And so when Billy came up to the Yankees in 1951, the players couldn't believe it. Because Casey loved this kid. I mean, Billy was like a second son to Casey Stengel. And Billy would give Casey all sorts of shit. It was really hilarious. And these veteran players couldn't believe it. And Casey would just wink and smile and, you know, my kid, we'll show you. And it was funny because that first year, Jerry Coleman was the second baseman on the Yankees. And Billy kept saying to Casey, I should be playing, not this guy. And Coleman was a very fine player. And
he was very slick. He was a terrific fielder.
He was, but Billy was Casey's Bobo. Billy was Casey's boy. And eventually he came in 51, and as you said before, in 52, he made that really fabulous catch as the light. It was a pop-up in somewhat near the pitcher's mound.
Kind of in Bermuda's Triangle between the pitcher, first baseman, and catcher.
And Joe Collins didn't see it, and the shortstop was Rizzuto, and he didn't see it. And Billy came charging in and caught the ball basically at his knees to save the game. I think Jackie Robinson had hit the ball, actually. And then
I think it was. Yes, it was.
And in 53,
Campanella would have scored and won the game. There were 2 outs.
Absolutely. It won the series for the Yankees. And then he was a star again in 53 when he got the 12, should have been 13 hits.
Peter, you made that comment about Casey loving Dad the way he did.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what keyed Mickey's wanting to be his friend, because that was
part of it.
Mickey's first spring training, he was still a shortstop.
Right.
And nobody remembers that Mickey Mantle came up as a shortstop. And so here he was in his first camp. And this is another one of those stories he told me, sitting in a place called Jack's Bar and Grill in Dallas. And he said, here I'm taking ball. We're working on double plays. And he goes, I'm looking around at all these guys thinking, how many guys are going to get cut? Mm-hmm. And he goes, I see that skinny little Dago over there, second base with the big nose. I'm like, he's getting cut for sure. And he said, all of a sudden, one of the coaches is talking about how to turn a double play. And he said, skinny little Dago says, no, that's not how the old man wants it done. He wants the footwork done like this.
Right.
And this guy's arguing with the coach. And he said, oh, that's it. He's getting cut right here. He's gone. Next thing you know, the old man jogs over and points at the kid and says, no, that's exactly how I want it done. And that's
because he had played for him in Oakland, so he knew. He knew because they had played for him all year. Yeah.
That's when Mickey decided, you know what, I'm hanging out with this guy from now on.
Yeah, and Mickey unfortunately had such a powerful arm. The problem was he had a great deal of difficulty hitting the first baseman. And Casey, being the brilliant man that he was, and he was as smart as any manager around, decided that we're going to take this boy who could really run. He was the fastest player in the major leagues when he came up, Mickey Mantle was. He ran to first base in something like 3.7 seconds. It was amazing how fast he was. And he made him into the center fielder on the team.
Casey said he was cob with power. He said he's Ty Cobb with power. He said that in his first training camp.
Well, that sounds about right.
He was so fast. He went for 1 for 8 or 9. He would lay down a bunt for a hit because he could do that.
No, without a doubt.
Did your dad talk about his relationship with Joe DiMaggio at all? They were close.
Sure.
Because of his moxie. Is there anything is there anything that we might not, or Mr. Golenbock knows it, I'm sure. Anything I might not know about their relationship, or Joe, or an insight to him? Very complicated man.
Absolutely, and a real quiet man. As a matter of fact, he and Dad's relationship, that I got to see firsthand, was when Dad was managing the Yankees, and Joe would come, or any team. If Joe was in the neighborhood, if Joe was around, he'd come hang out and just hang out in the manager's office with Dad. Mm-hmm. And they'd have a few exchanges. What's going on? How's this person in your family? What's going on? But they had more, and I don't want to call them uncomfortable silences, because between the two of them, they were comfortable silences. Mm. But Joe would just hang out in his office. And, the trainer would come in, go over the players. They had complete trust. Dad never said, oh, hey, Joe, would you leave? I got to talk to this guy. It was fine, but there wasn't always banter going back and forth like Dad and Mickey had, or they had this comfortable. It was almost like a big brother relationship, and that was kind of how it was for Dad.
I think that's accurate. Yeah, it was a big brother thing. When Billy came up in 50, Joe DiMaggio was towards the end of his career, but he was still, the greatest living player in baseball at the time. And Billy, who was hilarious, used to imitate Joe. Joe would come in and take off his left leg first, then his right leg after that, and then put his uniform on. And the way Joe did it, Billy would do it exactly the same. And Joe would order like a half a cup of coffee, and Billy would order a half a cup of coffee, And whatever Joe did, that's what Billy did. And again, the players thought, who is this young kid to be, so close to this superstar player? But that was.
I'm going to take the story a step farther. I'm going to take this a step farther. All right.
Go ahead.
It's another tale from Mickey, because Mickey, like everybody, was in awe of Joe.
Right.
And amazed the way my father could jack with him, tease him, and treat him like just a normal player, as opposed to where Mickey admitted to me, he said, I couldn't even talk to him. I was so in awe of him. He was married to Marilyn Monroe. He was the biggest celebrity in the game. He goes, I would just get, tongue-tied trying to even talk to the man. And he goes, and your dad's playing pranks on him. Because Joe took him under his wing. They were both Italians from the Bay Area. Both came from the Pacific Coast League. And so Joe would take Dad out for a steak. And, like Dad's favorite story, talking about his first game. He actually, my father got 2 hits in his first major league plate appearances in the same inning.
Oh.
In the same inning, they matched around the order. He got 2 hits, and Joe kind of lightly tapped him on the arm and said, "Way to break in, kid."
Mm-hmm.
That's his little story. But Mickey's story was even funnier. He said, I'll never forget this. And he, just like you're talking about how Dad could imitate him, Mickey would tell you step by step exactly how the man did everything. And he would saunter in the locker room in his 3-piece suit. And if he knew your name, he'd say, "Hey, Ralph. Hey, Peter." But if he didn't, he'd just go, he'd make the click noise and point at you. "Hey."
Yeah.
"Hey." as he sauntered to his locker and take his shoes off first, then his pants, then his jacket, then his vest. Mickey, article by article described exactly how the man undressed. And he tells me the story about, he said 2 different pranks that Dad did, but the best one is he's just getting his vest off, and he's used to being stared at by most of the team. He realized everybody in the room is staring at him. So now he knows something's up. So he starts to scan the room. Well, this was right after the Playboy poster of Marilyn Monroe had been out on shelves, and Dad had taken that poster and taped it to the back wall, the back door of the clubhouse. Okay, so here you got Marilyn Monroe posing nude on this poster taped up to the door. So Jody sees it, walks over there, pulls it off the wall, crumples it up, throws it in the trash can, and looks at my father and shakes his head, and just walks back to his locker.
He knew it was him.
Oh, he knew exactly who did it, and loved that about my father, that he didn't treat him like one of the guys. Joe appreciated that. Joe wanted to be treated like one of the guys.
He did. Billy one time brought over a baseball that he wanted Joe to sign for him. And what he didn't tell Joe was that the ink in the pen he was bringing him was invisible ink. In other words, Joe always had these whiter than white shirts that he wore, and they were pressed and beautiful. And so Billy walked over with this baseball and squirted this blue ink all over his shirt. Joe, I thought, from the way Billy told it, was about to go through the roof. And Billy had to tell him, Joe, it's okay. It's invisible ink. It'll go away in about 20 seconds. But that's the sort of thing that he used to do to DiMaggio, where nobody would even talk to him.
Yeah, they were just like, think about Mickey Mantle, the greatness of Mickey Mantle. He was so in awe of Joe D that he told me, he said, I could barely talk to the man.
Billy, there is a book right now. It is. Let me tell you, there's a book right now which is so sensational by a man by the name of Tony Castro. He's a friend of mine. It's about Mickey, and I think the title of it is Mickey and Joe D. And it is an absolute fabulous book. When Mickey was a rookie in 1951, he was deeply in love with a woman by the name of Holly what's Holly's last name, was like Burke, something like that. Absolutely in love with this girl. She was a New Yorker, and they were crazy in love. And what happened was, in 1951 at the World Series, Mickey caught his foot in the drain pipe and twisted his knee something terrible and had to go to the hospital. And his father at the time, what Mickey didn't realize, his father had terminal cancer. He had Hodgkin's disease. And so the father ended up in the hospital too. And the father said to Mickey, I know you love this girl, but I want you to go home and marry Merlin. Merlin is more your type of girl. And Mickey, being 21 years old and being absolutely devoted to his father, did what his father asked him to do. And it's part of why, you know, Mickey, during his entire relationship with Merlin, was so away. He was never home. He was always somewhere. And quite frankly, he was very often with Billy. But this book, if you're curious about the relationship with Joe DiMaggio and Mickey Mantle, it is such a sensational book. You would really enjoy reading it.
Well,
does this guy believe they really?
Mr. Castro's a guest.
You get Tony Castro on. He'd be wonderful. Sure.
He's your friend. Go get him, Mr. Booker.
Well, I'll get him. Sure.
All right. That's what I like to hear.
Hard to do. Yeah.
Well, I have a question for you, Peter, because if you've read the book and talking to Dad, you know, Dad didn't believe that Joe had anything out for Mickey.
No, the book says that. That's what the book says.
Good.
The book says that the two were good friends. No, all of this bullshit about the two of them having a rivalry turns out not true at all. You got to read this book. That's why it's so fabulous.
Dad never believed it. Dad never believed it.
No,
and that's what he told me, and that's what I believe. Okay.
Dad was right. They respected each other tremendously. And when you read this book, you'll know exactly why and how, and it's just wonderful. It's a terrific book.
Yeah.
Tony's problem is that he should have published this book 30 years ago.
Sure.
The problem now is there are about 12 of us who remember what we're talking about right now today.
No,
30 years ago.
We've disagreed on this subject over the years too. What we go back on, will never lose interest. It never will. Believe me, when they write a song, Willie, Mickey, and the Duke and stuff, that's not going away.
That was 25 years ago.
I know, it was 20. None of it's going away. I'm just telling you, that song
as long as you have
still makes everybody tingle, and there's nothing like those days. And
I agree with you.
There was never a Dynasty.
Ralph,
yes.
When people listen to Mickey, Willie, and the Duke, 80% of the people don't know who Mickey is, Willie is, or Duke is. They're 20 years old. They don't know who they are. We know, and you know what? This is all for posterity anyway. When you stop to think about it, but there are enough things, and our time is short. I want to get Billy to talk about Whitey Ford a little bit, the chairman of the board.
Okay. Now, I'm sorry. To talk about what?
Whitey Ford.
Oh, Whitey Ford.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anything that you might pass on about their relationship? Kind of the third guy in the crew.
Well, think of the dichotomy of the three guys. Okay, you look at Mickey. Here he had this threesome. These three best friends who were such different guys. Here, my father was from the docks in Berkeley, freaky poor, total West Coast. Mickey, down south, Commerce, Oklahoma, country with the accent. And then you got Whitey, Mr. Slick, New Yorker. They were so different, but that's why they clicked so good, because they all brought such a different perspective to the table. Mm-hmm. And it was, my favorite story of the three of them, because it really mixes in kind of who they all were, was and Peter touched on it earlier when he talked about Dad getting traded in 1957. They all went out to dinner that night. You know, life was so cheap when he traded Dad. He waited to tell him, and they were playing the Kansas City Athletics the next day at home. So that way he didn't have to fly him anywhere. He just said, oh, by the way, you've been traded and you're going to be getting dressed in the other locker room tomorrow.
Right.
And so, well, that happened to be the day before Whitey was pitching. So the three of them went out, and Whitey didn't go out on the nights he pitched. That was his one night to stay home and rest up, you know.
Right.
But this was the night he broke that rule because here their little threesome of, you know, the best buddies was getting broken up.
They must have been devastated. They must have
been
heartbroken.
They did. They went out, they drank, they were crying. Whitey says to Dad at dinner, second at bat, second pitch. I'm grooving a fastball right in your honey hole. Won't you hit that son of a bitch out? But I'm giving you that. Well, the next day, as my father is jogging the bases after hitting that home run, Whitey is calling him every name in the book as he's jogging the bases. And I love that story. I had Whitey knock him down in the next at bat. And
they were three incredibly talented, brilliant people. All three of them.
Think how clutch they all were.
They stood New York on its ear at the time.
Absolutely.
It was.
Oh, yeah.
Look how different they were and how amazing. At the same time.
Remember how staid the Yankees were. How staid and unfun-loving that clubhouse was, or reputed to be, by you guys, before Mickey and your dad and Whitey and the new generation kind of. There was two new generations. The Kubeks and Richardson came in Boughton, but this was a start of humanity. I mean, there was those
everyday
guys
people didn't relate to them
grizzled.
as much as they did. But they didn't relate to them. The Kubeks and Richardson were such Boy Scouts.
They were.
And I talk about what a great, and I don't mean to knock them. They're, to this day.
Well, they were what they were Casey called the milk drinkers.
Well,
right.
Yeah,
milkshakes.
Right.
Milkshakes.
And Bobby Richardson
milk
may be
drinkers.
one of the best human beings
okay.
I've ever met. But the everyday fan couldn't relate to them like they could Dad, Mickey, and Whitey. Because here these guys were so different. Mickey, and look at their abilities. Mickey was the most, maybe had the best skill set in the whole damn game. Right? Switch hitter, run, power, everything. And here's your Dad, who had nothing. Dad was Billy Ripken. He had a little bit of speed, but below average everywhere.
It was down to heart, though.
Except for his ability to rise up in the big games, to finish, to close the door. Look at Whitey. Whitey wouldn't even get drafted in today's game. What I do, I went and watched him play a game, saw the velo. He wouldn't even. He might not even get drafted in today's game. And
neither would any of those pitchers, though, Billy. None of those pitchers would.
But
every pitcher today throws 95.
Well, think how big game he was, though. Those three guys, all three of them, rose to the.
He was the chairman
level.
of the board. I know. And you know what? Whitey has kind of been forgotten, which is kind of a damn shame. I mean, Whitey was the finest pitcher in the American League for quite a long, long time. And when Ralph Houck finally took over from Casey in 1961, he said to Whitey, "You're pitching every fifth day." And Whitey won 24 games. If Casey had done that, Casey would take Whitey and pitch him against the best teams and hold him back. So he'd win 15, 16, 12. But when Ralph Houck took over, he said, "You're pitching every fifth day." And he won 25 games. It was just amazing. The interesting thing about the mantle Martin Ford Yankees was that the bums, the Brooklyn Dodgers, supposedly had this reputation for being, such fun-loving guys. And they were the biggest stiffs around. I mean, they were real schoolboys. Gil Hodges and Pee Wee Reese and Duke Snyder were milk drinkers to beat the band. And the Yankees, who were supposed to be like U.S. Steel, those were the...
Right.
No,
I can remember stories of them having water gun fights in the clubhouse. Whitey's
right.
dad and they were kids and great.
They were kids and they had a lot of fun.
On the off chance, one more memory on the off chance you mentioned Whitey Ford not being drafted. There's another guy, Bobby Shantz, who came to the Yankees for a short period of time. Rookie of the Year with Kansas City in '51, or whatever year it was.
Well, let me tell you my favorite Bobby Shantz story. Bobby Shantz was the guy who brought with him to every hotel a briefcase, and in that briefcase were drills. And what he used to do is find the prettiest stewardess that he could find and find out what room that stewardess was in. And he would take his drill set and drill 6 or 7 holes in the door so that he and his teammates could watch that stewardess do whatever that stewardess does. And that was the highlight for his teammates to be, a teammate of Bobby Shantz's.
All right. That's something you wouldn't find out in the scorecard.
Right.
In the yearbook. The official Yankee yearbook has Bobby Shantz drilling a hole on the 6th floor. Actually, this is pre-Boughton stuff when Boughton would talk about everybody going up on the roof with binoculars and
the thing about Boughton, what was so wonderful about that is the way he talked about it. It wasn't that only Mickey was doing it. It was that everybody was doing it, including him. Poor Boughton really took a hit when he really shouldn't have. And the reason he took a hit is because some of these players didn't like the fact that he told secrets out of school.
Right.
Well,
it wasn't all that, by today's standards, it wasn't all that exciting from that standpoint. It was humorous as hell, for sure, and it was
still the second
wordsmith.
Still the second best baseball book ever written about baseball after The Glory of Their Times by Larry Ritter.
Oh.
That's one and two.
I swear to God, I thought you were going to say Dynasty.
No. Glory of Their Times by Larry Ritter. Larry went around the country during the summer and interviewed the guys who played in 1905 and 1915. If it hadn't been for Larry Ritter, all of that information would have been lost. It's a fabulous book.
Absolutely. A lot of great books. I'll throw one at you, and I don't know if we've talked about this. Willie's Time by Charles Einstein.
Another fabulous book. Fabulous book. Absolutely. Yeah. Ed Lynn was a good friend of mine. He was a wonderful guy, modest, talented, used to write for Sport Magazine. He and Roger Kahn and Arnold Haino were among my favorites when I was a kid. They were the guys.
I had him as a guest on one of my shows.
It's wonderful.
John Loantakis did a
He did a documentary about Arnold. Yeah.
Yes,
but
wonderful
I can tell you,
and he, in his 90s, how many people we've talked to, Dr. Brown, these people are sharp. Carl Erskine I talked to recently,
I know.
Late 80s, early 90s, sharp as a tack. Baseball does that
to you
sometimes.
You're either sharp as a tack or you're dead. I mean, it's one or the other, so fortunately, sharp as a tack is better.
Yes, on some days.
I know. What I wanted to say, since we've got Billy's son here, I wanted to finish up with this notion, and that is this: is that John McGraw, who starting in 1905 and ending up somewhere around 1931, 32, was always reputed to be one of the very, very best managers in the history of the game. John McGraw taught Casey Stengel how to manage. John McGraw was the one who platooned and showed Casey how to do it. And then what you then had is you had Casey Stengel teaching Billy Martin how to do it. And that, to me, that's just a fabulous, from 1905 to when Billy finished in 1989. My goodness, what an era that was.
Nice.
Well, you said something a second ago. You touched on something a minute ago that I want to finish with. When you talk about the friendship, the partying of that old Yankees team, the way those guys had fun like they did.
They did.
To me, that is why they were so clutch. That is why they played so well in big games because they did party together, because they did have that love for one another, and that makes you sell out on the field.
Yep.
And you get that extra because you play team sports for that reason. Otherwise you play tennis or golf. But you make that play so you can jump up and look at that pitcher's eyes when you just made that diver, because he just wants to freaking hug you right there, and he can't believe you just made that play. That's what this game's about, and
that's what makes the game so great. That's the greatness of the game right there. Oh, it's most.
And Billy, you mentioned something off the field too. It's the ability that some have to leave it at the ballpark. We talked off the air about this, and your dad's demeanor at home. Somebody said, you tell the story about somebody saying, "Oh, your dad must have yelled at you a lot," or this, that, and the other thing.
Never. Yeah, he never yelled at me. They just assumed he must have yelled at me like he yelled at umpires, right? And Peter, I don't think he ever yelled at me, ever. I mean, I don't ever remember a time.
I'm not surprised.
The way he knew he was gone so much that he didn't want to spend the time we did have together being negative. So if he had anything he wanted to say to me, it'd just be, "Hey, how you doing in school? Okay, pal, because I'm counting on you to go to college and be the first Martin to graduate, okay? All right," that's all he had to say. And then I knew what he wanted. So, of course, I was going to do whatever Dad wanted. But
sure,
he had this, he didn't have to yell at me. He was special that way. But people assume that. I think they also
did things. Billy did things for a reason. Billy did things for a reason. He didn't do things arbitrarily. He did them for a reason. And very often he would succeed in doing what it was he was trying to do.
Sure. Well, but here's an interesting part that Ralph was kind of alluding to a second ago. Okay? Thinking about Dad's personality and the way he took a loss. Think about, most people would assume that he would just wear that loss until the next game. But if you play this game every day, you have to learn to let it go. And I think one of his most amazing talents was the different man he was between the lines and the guy he was after the game. And, he was, just like what I told Ralph, he'd be the guy that would step on your throat to win the game, if that's what he had to do. But as soon as the game was over, he would rush you to the hospital. He would tell you he's sorry. He would pay for it. He'd tell your whole family, "I'm sorry." But tomorrow, might do the same thing between the lines.
Right.
He might do it again, but guess what? He's going to take you to the hospital again.
I mean,
and that's what he was.
We could literally talk for another hour about the relationship between Billy and George Steinbrenner, because I'm still convinced that if he had stayed in Oakland and he had not come back to the Yankees that third or fourth time, he would have won a hell of a lot of pennants in Oakland, and he'd still be alive.
Oh, he was so stress-free there.
Tumultuous times, though, in Oakland for him. For one reason or another, he was his demons were coming out in those years.
Not in Oakland. In Oakland, he was doing great.
He had a wife
in Oakland. He had a girlfriend.
Had already messed up his mind 5 times.
No, not in Oakland. Once.
No, I said Steinbrenner had already messed his mind up.
Here was the problem. You know, he was manager and general manager when they first hired him in Oakland. I mean, the first thing he did was completely revamp that scouting department.
Yep.
And while he was GM, they drafted 3 Rookie of the Years in a row.
Yep.
McGuire, Canseco, and Walt Weiss.
Yep.
All drafted while he was, with the revamped scouting department that he created there of all his old cronies. But I'll tell you guys a story. I don't even know if I've ever said this story on the air, but he was managing in Oakland. It was the end of that year. They were going to play the Yankees. They ended up playing the Yankees in the postseason. Remember, it was a strike-shortened year.
I remember it well.
So all the other reporters had left his office in Texas after the A's played the Rangers. And all that was left was myself and Randy Galloway. Randy is a beat writer here. It was one of the few guys Dad trusted in this area. Damn good guy. And a guy that he could give information to, and trust, that he wouldn't rat him out. And so as soon as everybody else runs off, there's only a couple weeks in the season to go, Dad says to Randy, hey, you heard this from a little bird, not from me. And you can release it in about 3 weeks. But I'll be the next manager of the New York Yankees. Randy and I, in unison, said to my father, why? Both with anger in our voice. Like, why?
Right.
If you'd seen
right.
that.
Why would you do that?
He had color in his face. He had a little bit of a gut. He was eating well. He was happy. He wasn't so stressed. Look at all his Yankee pictures. He's gaunt. Right. He's pale. He's stressed.
Yep.
This was the best he looked, the healthiest he'd been in forever. He was bulletproof there. That was home for him.
Absolutely. That's
if he got pulled over by a cop, hang on, Mr. Martin, we'll get you home. I mean, he was a pope. Yeah, it was such a neat situation for him there. But the funny part was when we said that, why?
Yeah, no, right.
He looked at me like he wanted to slap me. It was the first time in my life I felt like he really wanted to smack me.
Oh, I'm sure he did.
Life. And he said,
all he wanted to be was the Yankee manager. That's all he wanted to be.
That was his answer. He said, because I'm a Yankee, Pard, and I'm just not happy anywhere else.
That's also true. And he got himself fired.
Did he get it together with Casey at the end?
Yes, kind of. Yeah, I was there.
He slept in Casey's bed right before he died. Yeah.
I will have to pat myself on the back. I was instrumental in helping push that.
Wonderful.
He was great to me, and I just pulled Dad aside and said, someday you gotta. I go, I can't imagine what it'd be like having life without you. He was as close to you as I have. I mean, that was as close to a dad as you ever had.
That's right.
You gonna let that go one day? It was a Sunday too, and I said, "Isn't that what Big God wants you to do?" And he gave me a smart ass grin, like, "You got me there, you little bastard." and it was a game in Detroit, and Casey was there for some reason. I don't know if it was an old timers game or what it was. And Dad walked over and talked to him, and it just started getting better from then on.
Yeah.
And so and I don't know if that was better for Dad or for Casey. I think it was better for Casey, to be real honest with you.
Probably better for Casey, yes, because Casey was terrible that your dad refused to talk to him, and for 6, 7 years. But it's interesting. Yeah. Billy went to Casey's funeral, and that night he slept in Casey's bed.
I just recently did something like that. My partner at our agency is David Pepe, son of Phil Pepe,
Uh-huh.
Former writer, and he passed away over the holidays. And
rest in peace. Absolutely.
You're talking about Phil Pepe.
Yes, sir. And
oh wow.
I slept in Phil's bed the night of his funeral.
Wow.
Yeah, he was awful good to me, you know.
He was an awfully wonderful person. Phil was a wonderful person.
Absolutely.
I liked him so much. He was very, very terrific.
Okay. At the risk of embarrassing Mr. Golenbock, here it comes, Billy. Now batting for the Yankees, number 1, Billy Martin Jr.
I know Mr. Shepard's voice very well.
Absolutely.
All right. I hope at least you recognized it. It wasn't Howdy Doody you were thinking of.
Not bad, Ralph. Not bad at all.
All right.
Now
so you'll come back
for the New York Yankees, number 2, Derek Jeter. I cannot. How could you forget that voice? I mean, it's right there with Vin Scully for me, and
no, absolutely.
You know.
I know it.
Well, for me, when it's
Harry
right there more than the announcers because it brought you in the game. Second game of a doubleheader. Now playing center field for the Yankees, number 17, Norm Seaburn, and everybody boo like hell. So, hey guys, thank you. Same time next week, Mr. Golenbock. And thank you, Billy. I hope you'll come back.
Absolutely. You guys are
beautiful.
You guys are good in my book any day.
My best to you, Billy.
Yeah, my best to both of you guys. Till that time, everybody, catch you on the flip-flop.
Absolutely.